For decades, Hollywood told us a lie about the Old West, and in that lie, Native Americans were either invisible or invaders. Women were faceless, voiceless, or reduced to exotic props in a white hero's story. Early in his career, Clint Eastwood played in that myth, but later, he helped bury it. For a long time, the Western was America's creation story, a grand stage where rugged heroes tamed a wild frontier. Think of John Wayne, Gary Cooper, these icons of masculinity. They represented order, progress, and a very specific version of American destiny. In this version, the land was empty, waiting to be claimed. Native Americans, if they appeared at all, were often just obstacles, depicted as a faceless, hostile force standing in the way of civilization. They were the other, a threat to be overcome. Women in these classic westerns weren't treated much better. They were often damsels in distress, waiting for a man to rescue them, or maybe the saloon girl with a heart of gold. Rarely were they given their own agency, their own desires, or a story that wasn't tied directly to the male protagonist. They were accessories to the hero's journey, not heroes in their own right. And this narrative, repeated over and over, became the accepted truth. It was a powerful myth, but it was built on erasure and stereotypes, ignoring the complex, brutal, and often tragic reality of the American West. Clint Eastwood's career began squarely within this tradition. Films like A Fistful of Dollars and The Good, the Bad and the Ugly solidified his image as the silent, stoic gunslinger, a man of few words and fast action. These spaghetti westerns, directed by Sergio Leone, were stylish and cynical, and they certainly pushed the boundaries of the genre. But they still operated within that same mythical framework. The landscapes were barren, the conflicts were between men, and the deeper historical context of the land and its people was largely absent. Eastwood became a global superstar playing this archetype, the man with no name. But as his career progressed and he stepped behind the camera himself, something began to shift. The man who embodied the myth would eventually become one of its most powerful critics. In The Outlaw Josie Wales, a film Eastwood directed and starred in back in 1976, his character rides through a war-torn frontier. Along the way, he meets Little Moonlight, a Comanche woman, and Lone Waddy, a Cherokee man played by the incredible Chief Dan George. Now at the time, this was pretty rare. Seeing native characters with names, dignity, and wisdom on screen was not the norm. Lone Waddy in particular became a memorable figure, delivering one of the film's most famous lines, "Endeavor to persevere." It was a moment of profound, quiet strength. Chief Dan George, an actual leader of the Tsleil-Waututh Nation, brought an authenticity and grace to the role that was undeniable. He wasn't just playing a part. He was representing his people, but even this step forward was complicated. Little Moonlight, the Comanche woman, has no voice. We never learn her backstory. She exists primarily as a symbol of peace, a gentle presence in Josie's life, but not a fully formed person. She's a positive stereotype, but a stereotype nonetheless. And Eastwood himself later admitted the limitations of that time. He said, "We did the best we could with what we knew then." It was a recognition that while they were trying to do something different, they were still working within a system and a mindset that had deep ingrained blind spots. The film was a step in the right direction, a crack in the old myth, but the foundation was still shaky. It showed that good intentions weren't always enough to overcome decades of misrepresentation. The journey to a more honest portrayal of the West was just beginning. Then came Unforgiven in 1992. This wasn't just a film, it was a reckoning. It was Eastwood's masterpiece, a film that didn't just question the Western, it gutted it. The story follows William Money, a retired killer pulled back in for one last job. But there's no glory here. Killing is ugly, clumsy, and it leaves a permanent stain on the soul. The romance of the gunfighter is stripped away, revealing something rotten underneath. In one particularly haunting scene, a young, arrogant gunfighter, the Schofield Kid, brags about killing a man. Money asks him if it was his first. The kid, trying to sound tough, says yes. But then he breaks down, confessing that the man he killed was unarmed. The violence isn't clean or heroic. It's pathetic and tragic. And the film goes even further. Earlier, the same kid had bragged about killing 5 men, including a Native American woman. The film doesn't show it, but it doesn't need to. The horror hangs in the air. William Money, Eastwood's character, doesn't flinch, but the camera, and by extension the audience, is forced to confront the casual brutality of that statement. Eastwood later said, I wanted to show that the West wasn't won by heroes. It was built on blood, and a lot of it wasn't noble. For the first time, a mainstream, Oscar-winning Western named the violence against indigenous people not as some inevitable backdrop, but as a real, human tragedy. Unforgiven wasn't a celebration of the West. It was its eulogy. It took the myths Eastwood himself helped build and methodically tore them down, revealing the pain, fear, and moral decay they were built to hide. It was a brave and necessary act of cinematic deconstruction. In 2013, years after Unforgiven, Clint Eastwood was honored at a film festival in Santa Fe, New Mexico, a place rich with Native American history and culture. Before his public talk, he arranged a private meeting with local Pueblo elders. He didn't come to lecture, he came to listen. He sat with them as they spoke about their history, their culture, and how for generations, Hollywood had erased their stories, replacing them with harmful stereotypes. They spoke about the pain of seeing their ancestors portrayed as savages or simply ignored altogether. In that moment, Eastwood wasn't the towering movie star. He didn't defend himself or his industry. He didn't make excuses about the past. According to those present, he just listened intently and then said simply, "You're right, and it's time the truth got told." It was a moment of profound respect, away from the cameras and the applause. But his actions went beyond words. He later supported indigenous filmmakers quietly without any publicity. Through his Malpaso Foundation, he helped fund a short film by a young Navajo student. There was no red carpet, no press release, no headlines. It wasn't a grand gesture for public relations. It was just a man making amends, not with speeches, but with direct, meaningful action, helping to empower the next generation to tell their own stories in their own voice. Clint Eastwood never made a movie where he played the hero who saved a Native American girl. And that's a good thing. Because real heroism isn't about white saviors riding in to solve everyone's problems. Real heroism is about listening. It's about having the humility to admit when you were wrong, the courage to correct the record, and the wisdom to give space for others to tell their own stories. At 95, Clint Eastwood's greatest legacy may not be his famous squint or his iconic characters. It may be his quiet late-in-life evolution, his willingness to look back at the myths he helped create and then use his power to help dismantle them. If this truth about the West and the man who helped rewrite its story moved you, please like, subscribe, and join us at Buzz of Legends. Here, we don't just repeat the myths, we uncover the humanity behind them. Thanks for watching.